Do you feel like you are running on fumes but you don't know why? Or maybe life is passing you by so quickly that you can barely remember what happened the day before? Or are you feeling overwhelmed with life that you feel like you can't even process what's happening to you? When this is happening, often you can feel like life is happening to you, right? You don't feel like anywhere that you have control of what's going on. Do you feel that way? If you've said yes to any of these scenarios I've painted for you, it means that you have spiritual drains that are happening to you that you aren't even aware of. And those spiritual drains are zapping your spiritual health. So today I'm going to share with you how your outer world is sucking the spiritual life out of you, how your inner environment is spiritually draining so you're running on fumes, what spiritual health is and how do you get it, and most importantly, I have a quiz at the end that's going to help you with pinpointing where your most pervasive spiritual drains are. So let's get going. Here's the spiritual truth. Everything is energy. So whether you are aware of it or not, your outer world, your environment is affecting your spiritual health. Think about it, spiritual health. Have you ever considered what is healthy for you spiritually? I have found that this is something most people don't talk about or even think about, is their spiritual health. Is this healthy for my spiritual health? You may not even know what spiritual health is. So I decided to give you a little quiz so you can tell if you are spiritually healthy, okay? So let's take this quiz. Now, if you got a piece of paper, I always recommend it's good to write it down because sometimes when you see something in paper on print, you're like, oh, it makes more than just if you kind of answer it in your head and you don't really pay attention to it. So if you can, get a piece of paper and a pen to answer these questions, okay? Because there's going to be another quiz later to help you pinpoint your drains, okay? So question number 1 for your spiritually healthy quiz for you to check in with yourself. And you got to be honest with yourself, no judgment, just honesty, because the more honest you are with yourself, the better results you're going to get, okay? Number 1, do you feel like you are thriving spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically? So you have to take a moment to kind of check it with yourself. Do I feel like I'm thriving spiritually? Do I feel like I'm thriving emotionally? And that means like, are you feeling like emotionally fed, supported? Are you having the emotions that you need to have to express? Are you actually allowing yourself to feel if you're having sadness or fear? And it's not about staying stuck in there. It's about acknowledging that you're having it, that maybe you're disappointed about something and you feel sad about it. And so are you healthy that way, okay? Are you thriving mentally? So are you getting mental stimulation in a positive way, in an expansive way, okay? And do you feel physically thriving? Okay, that's question number 1. It's kind of one with lots of components, okay? Question number 2. Do you do new and different things daily or at least weekly? Say new or different things. Might be called learning for some people, but sometimes it's just taking a different route to someplace you go frequently to discover something new, okay? Okay, do you have a community of friends or family that are like-minded and supportive to your greater aspirations? Okay, so a community of friends or family that are like-minded and supportive to your greater aspirations. Some might call it goals, but some like to call aspirations. I call them aspirations because like I have an aspiration to be enlightened in this lifetime, because I feel like if you don't have the aspiration, you'll never get there. Okay, so do you have someone that supports you in your aspirations, whether that be spiritual aspirations, physical aspirations, financial aspirations, whatever it is? Do you have someone that supports you in it, okay? And 4, are you acting on your greater aspirations? So your greater aspiration might be to grow spiritually, but one of our greatest aspirations that we all have, whether you know it or not, is to act on our purpose, to know what it is and act on it. So are you doing any of those? Okay, so if you've answered yes to these, then you are spiritually healthy. If you've answered no to most of them, or even let's say half of them, then you're kind of lacking on the spiritual health side of things, okay? Because it's important that you look at all of you when you look at spiritual health, because everything is affecting your spiritual health, okay? So having spiritual health is about nurturing your ability to expand and grow spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. Every human being who comes on the planet is hardwired to grow. Okay, you are meant to grow whether you like it or not, and if you aren't going to continue to grow, you're going to just struggle and just be surviving rather than thriving. And if you're in a body, you are meant to thrive. I want you to get that message. You are meant to thrive, okay? Now, I want you to thrive because of that. Your spiritual soul is never going to let you forget it. Okay, if you keep ignoring the inklings of where you're meant to grow, you're going to struggle. You might get depressed, but you have to listen to that soul calling of expansion, of growth. Okay, so now let's get talking about your outer world, your outer environment, and how it can be sucking the life out of you, so much so that you feel overwhelmed or like you're running on fumes. So what is your outer world? It's your environment, right? So what exactly, when you think about it, is your environment? Well, environment is defined as the surroundings or conditions in which a person, animal, or plant lives or operates. So your environment, your surroundings, your conditions are affecting your spiritual health, whether you know it or not. It's either building you up or tearing you down. And what I mean by that building up or tearing down is when you're on the spiritual path of wanting to grow spiritually, wanting to maybe become enlightened or develop your spiritual gifts, you either expanding or contracting. That's what I'm talking about. So if your environment is building you up, it's helping you and supporting your expansion. And if it's tearing you down, it's actually supporting your contraction. You're getting contractive. You're, maybe dying or withering away. If you think about a plant, right? The right environment helps support it grow, have good color, have good colored leaves, where they're green and not yellowing. And if the conditions and environment is not, they wither away and they're dying. So there's no standing still. You don't see a plant just usually stop growing unless the environment prevents it from growing, okay? So we're going to talk a little bit about Yogananda, because Yogananda, this is my spirit guide portal, Yogananda. And if you know Yogananda, he talks about one of his famous sayings is environment is stronger than will. And what does he really mean by that? Now, I never got to talk to Yogananda because he died before I was even born, but I've read a lot of his different books and his philosophy and what his teachings, and I'm a disciple of him. And, I've come to realize that there are two types of environment. Now, a lot of people take the word environment is stronger than will as just your outer environment, and that is one of them, and it's one we're going to talk about first. But in order to be spiritually healthy, there's also your inner environment. In fact, your inner environment is, I would say, even more important than your outer environment. But when you are struggling or having challenges, you're not maybe growing as spiritually as quickly as you would like, or you're not being able to bring the level of success in your life, because success and spiritual growth go together. And that's another thing, is that Yogananda talked about that, how success in your life, like financial success is an indication of whether you're growing spiritually or not. So we're going to talk first about the outer environment, your outer surroundings, okay? But we're going to also talk about your inner environment, and that really is the most important one, okay? But if you're in a place, if you're one, new to the spiritual path of wanting to grow spiritually and develop your gifts, or two, you see yourself struggling to find, like, that you feel inspired by your spiritual practices, or struggling with what's happening in your life, then that means you've got to first maybe focus on your outer environment before you talk about the inner environment. Because the outer environment, that's what Yogananda was referring to, it's stronger than your willpower. A lot of people on the spiritual path want to tough it through. I can force myself to work through whatever's going on. And if you've listened to my videos, you know there's a healing part of growing spiritually too, which I'm not going to cover today, but it's an important part if you want to grow spiritually, okay? But he talked about the environment you're in. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So what are the elements of your outer environment that really make a difference? Okay, so there's that, what you would call maybe your social environment. That social environment, is it negative? Okay, what makes something negative? What makes something positive? You know when something's negative for you, right? It kind of pulls you down and you feel like, oh my God, this is so hard. And maybe you feel tired or angry or frustrated. Those are negative environment things, okay? So your negative environment, your social environment consists of your work environment, where you work, all right? Is that work environment uplifting? Or you get done with work and you feel like, oh my God, that was so hard. Or you feel drained at the end of it. You just feel exhausted, okay? That would be a negative work environment. So maybe you have coworkers that complain all the time or gossip all the time about negative things about people or say negative things about people. That would be a negative environment that could pull you down. Okay, another social environment that you may be lacking that can make a difference, okay, is do you have any community? If you feel isolated and alone, especially if you're new to the spiritual path and maybe you grew up in a certain religion, but now you realize you're not really in sync with that religion and you're into more of the metaphysical and the new thought perspective of that you're the creator of your reality, that you can manifest what you desire, and you want to be empowered like that, and you want to like venture out into some other things of intuition and things like that, you can often feel isolated. And that isolation can also often cause people to get kind of more contractive, okay? Maybe you're not negative in that you're complaining, but you feel contracted because you don't have any outer environment that supports your spiritual aspirations, okay? So it also could be outer industrial pollution. So if you live near where there are plants putting out a lot of smoke and toxic chemicals, those are affecting you too. The outer environment of what you eat also affects you, because if you eat all non-organic food, that's filled with pesticides. And those pesticides are now affecting your body, which is your body, your physical body, right, is more of an outer thing, right? Outer is kind of is what I would call physical, okay? So, and also the work that you're doing, okay? Maybe you work at a company that the environment is mostly negative, or that you don't really care for the people that work there, but you actually love the work that you do. That would be a step in the right direction. But if, let's say, you actually work at a company that has a negative environment and you don't like your work, you're going to work every day, right, in an environment that you don't like, whether it's the location of the job or also the environment that's inside of the job, okay? So all of that is affecting your ability to expand rather than contract. That negative downward pulling causes you to contract, okay? And there's also what I call a physical environment. Now, I talked about the food that you eat already, but it's where you live, okay? So there's where you work, the location of that, and the work environment that you go into. And that environment also is that work environment and home environment, is it something that's pleasing to your eye? Is it beautiful? Or is it kind of ugly and cold and stale? Those things affect your energy, okay? So where you live, you go to your own home. Is your home in a neighborhood that you really love? Or is it, again, by maybe places that have toxic pollution coming out? That's going to affect you and make things harder, pull down, make you contract, okay? But also in your home, is your home a home that you feel uplifted when you walk in? Or is it filled with clutter and not so clean? I don't want to say it's dirty, but maybe it is dirty and you don't like cleaning. But that clutter and that dirt actually drains your spiritual energy, the ability to feel like you can expand. It actually causes you to contract, okay? If you live in a neighborhood without any trees, that can be contractive, okay? So industrial kind of energies of where it's all just man-made that can be an environment that can be contractive for your energy. Okay, so those are some of the negative things in your environment. Now, in a future video, I'm going to talk about the different things you can do for it, but I want to make you aware, because the first step of any change and any spiritual growth is to become aware that there's a problem, that there's something going on that's not really working for you. So you really want to check in, like, does your home environment actually make you feel uplifted? Or when you walk in, are you like, God, pile of dirty dishes in the sink, dust everywhere, all those things can be downward pulling. Now, I don't want you to feel shame about it if your house is that way, because I know, like, if you are someone who has kids, or even if you don't have kids and you work a lot of hours, it can sometimes be challenging to keep your home clean. But you want to be aware of how it's affecting your energy, because that's the first level. Because when you start to actually acknowledge something's not working for you, that something is actually affecting your energy, your ability to grow spiritually, then you can start to go, well, I would like something different. How can it be different? Okay? So now we're going to go to the inner environment. So let's talk about your inner environment, right? I said it was one of the most important things. And the reason being it's one of the most important things is because you can have a perfect outer environment. Let's say you live in a place that is helping you expand. But if you have inner environment habits, inner environment thinking, because let's talk about what it is first, okay? Because what is your inner environment? Your inner environment is, one, your subconscious programming. I talk about that a lot, about the belief systems you have, the habitual ways you have of thinking, maybe your habitual habits of behavior inwardly, because you have outward behaviors, right, that you go and do. But you also have inward behaviors. So maybe your inward behavior is to berate yourself when you don't do something perfectly. Or maybe you are a perfectionist. I always call myself a recovering perfectionist. And that when you don't do something as well as you think you should be, then you beat yourself up and think something is wrong, or that you were stupid for doing something. All those are inner environment things that are affecting your ability to expand or contract, okay? Obviously, we want you to be expanding when it comes to spiritual growth. So the inner thoughts and habits that you have, so do you have an inner thought of ruminating about a problem, which is called worry? I meet a lot of people who have the inner habit of worry about what could possibly happen in the future, what's not working. Maybe you worry about something that happened the day before, something with your boss, something with your spouse. All those are inner habits. So the inner dialogue you have, your inner emotional wounds that go on, see, those are all, that's why I talk about healing. Healing's important. All of those are your inner habits. And that inner environment, the inner habits of your perspective, your paradigm, your belief system that runs your life, is determining whether you are expansive or contractive. But if your outer environment doesn't support it and you're trying to make change, because just about everybody I have met has some subconscious programming in their inner environment that doesn't allow them to step in to the fullness of who they are spiritually. And so that inner environment of maybe who are you to think that you can be enlightened in this lifetime, or that you're not good enough, or that there's something wrong with you, all of those belief systems, that, or simply you're not good at math, okay, because that still limits you. All the limiting beliefs that you get programmed with are the inner environments that stop you. And when Yogananda says environment is stronger than will, he may not have been referring to that if you talk to some of his disciples, but I have come to realize that, I do believe this is a truth, that he was talking about this, that we can't just use our willpower to make those inner habits of like the emotional wounds go away. And that's where the healing part comes in, about you have to kind of heal. And healing is about letting go. You have to be aware that you have that inner environment happening, realize it's not serving you, and then make a change, okay? So that inner environment of those habitual thoughts and feelings and habits, emotional wounds, all can keep you stuck in the same place. So if you're struggling to grow spiritually, or it's not going as fast as you would like, you want to look at the outer environment first to support your spiritual growth of what you need to put in place. And I'm going to talk about it in a future video. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you like what you're hearing so far, please give me a thumbs up. It helps my channel. And of course, I'm always about, if you find this helpful and you want to be a blessing in the world, share with someone that you feel it would help with, okay? So if your inner environment's not where you want it to be, you have to be willing to go, I see this habit's going on. Become aware of it. And then, like I said in the future video, we're going to talk about what you do about that more. But that first step is being aware that you have it. To catch yourself when you're berating yourself, to catch yourself when you're judging yourself, to catch yourself when you're having any form of what I call self-hatred. Most people don't relate to that word. They relate to maybe not liking something about themselves, but I say that's a seed of the self-hatred whenever you don't like something about yourself. Whether it's you don't like something about your personality or you don't like something about your body, whatever it is, it's a seed of self-hatred. And you want to, that's one of the things you want to heal, okay? So we're going to talk next about a little quiz because I told you you're going to have a quiz to help determine where you are, okay? So let's get to that next. So now that we've talked about the things that affect your spiritual health, let's help you determine whether you're actually having a spiritual drain in your life, that if you're in that place of being drained spiritually, okay? So I'm going to give you a little 8-question quiz here, and I want you to be as honest as you can with yourself, because the more honest you are with you, the more obviously effective this test is going to be, this quiz is going to be to help you see where you are, okay? So no judgment when you answer the questions. You want to be honest and just let it be that this is a tool to bring you information, to give you feedback so that you can check in on where you are, okay? So if you can, I'd like it if you can have a piece of paper and pen to write down the answers, because sometimes when you see them written down, it has more of an awareness effect where you go, wow, I didn't realize this, as opposed to just kind of answering in your head. It's better if you can write them down. So if you can, get a piece of paper and a pen. If you're driving, obviously you're going to make a mental note, but if you can, get that piece of paper and pen, okay? So I want you to get that piece of paper and pen out, and I'm going to start the quiz here in a second. There's 8 questions, and take a moment before each question. Really check in with yourself for a second and just go, okay, and go with the answer, okay? All right, so question number 1. Do you find it hard to hear or trust your gut instinct? Like you're feeling confused or indecisive more than usual? Okay, question number 2. Do you feel alone and unsupported in your beliefs, goals, and aspirations of what you would like for your life? Well, check in with yourself, remember? Okay. Question number 3. When you look around your home or workspace, does the clutter or disorganization make you feel stressed or unhappy? Okay, check in with yourself again. Number 4. Do you often get sucked into negative news, social media, or conversations that leave you feeling anxious, frustrated, or angry? Number 5, have you noticed a persistent feeling of negativity, cynicism, or hopelessness about your life or your future? Number 6, do you walk away from interactions with important people in your life feeling drained and exhausted instead of uplifted? Now, if you don't know what important people are, it could be important coworkers, your boss, especially your spouse. If you have children, your children, because those are important relationships, okay? Things that are important to you. Question number 7. Do you feel distant or disconnected from God, the universe, whatever name you use to call your higher power that you believe in? And question number 8. Are you mostly doing things you feel you have to, or that you should, or you do it by a sense of duty in your life rather than a feeling of passion, joy, or purpose? So again, are you mostly doing things you feel like you have to or should, or by sense of duty? Answer yes or no. Okay, so now take your piece of paper and count up the amount of yeses that you have. And if you answered yes to 3 to 4 of those questions, it's a pretty strong sign that you're dealing with going down that spiritual drain, that your environment isn't, your inner and outer environment isn't in place that is on the expansive side, okay? If you hit 5 or more, you are definitely in a state where it could be that you're heading for spiritual exhaustion or burnout, because you have so many elements, okay? Now, I'm not going to go into this video about what each little element and what it means and what part of your environment you need to work on. That's something I would do like with individual coaching, and I wouldn't be able to address every single one because I would want to know more about you. So if you're somebody who's looking to like work with a spiritual mentor coach, which is what I do, because you really want to develop your spiritual aspirations and step into your purpose, or create a life that you really love, please take advantage of my complimentary Next Step Connection Call. You just go to deepblue.com/gift and you can sign up there, and I'd be happy to connect with you and find out, are we a fit? Are you a fit with me? Am I a fit with you? Because you have to be in the right place for this to be something that will actually benefit you. Because I tell people I'm not here to coach people who aren't ready. So I always like to make sure that you're ready and you're a fit, okay? So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. Please share anything that you have. Again, if you haven't subscribed and you like this, please do, because I'm going to have a second video that's where we're going to talk about some of the things you can do to help change you from a spiritual drain to actually starting to like have that spiritually healthy environment that's going to help you expand and grow into your spiritual gifts and into what you want to create in your life. All right? So have a miraculous day and blessings. I'll see you in the next video.